Well, hello there. I'm Kim Berry, editor of Food and Drink Business. Welcome to Play, our weekly news roundup, brought to you by GS1 Australia, the only authorised source for your barcodes. For 50 years, GS1 standards have powered business to operate seamlessly, efficiently and safely. You can learn more about the next generation of barcodes at gs1au.org. In the news this week, Foodbank Australia released its annual hunger report, with 36% of Australian households now experiencing food insecurity. That is more households than Sydney and Melbourne combined. I was talking to Foodbank's CEO, Brianna Casey, about the findings and the perverse place that they land us in. Awareness of food insecurity is growing, which is a good thing, because ideally, with awareness comes action. But the reason awareness is growing is because more people are experiencing it. Casey said it was the first time in more than the decade that Foodbank has been carrying out the report that they were seeing a familiarity with the topic. She said people can see themselves in the stories. The main cause of food insecurity this year is the cost of living crisis, for 79% of food insecure households, in fact. This is an issue with many moving parts. Hunger is a symptom of bigger issues, the real-life consequences of cost of living pressures, government allowances not keeping pace with the real world, housing and homelessness. But Casey said we're fast moving towards the reality where half of us will know what food insecurity is because we're experiencing it ourselves. Almost 1 in 2 Australians have felt anxious about accessing adequate food or struggled to consistently access it in the last year, and yet we produce 3 times the amount of food that we need. There's more on the report and my interview with Brianna Casey on the website. It's almost 3 years since China imposed tariffs of up to 212% on Australian wine, bringing what had been a highly lucrative export market to its knees. This week, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced an agreement with China had been reached and that those tariffs are going to be reviewed. Cautiously optimistic is how I would describe the industry's response. No one wants to be the one that sends the diplomatic relationship back to square one. Before the tariffs, wine exports were worth about $1.2 billion. And look, even before the news broke this week, no one I've spoken to in the industry thinks export levels will ever return to the level that they were. But everyone at least wants a playing field where they can give it a red hot go. Let's circle back in 5 months when the review will be completed. Sara Lee, the maker of frozen desserts loved by many, has gone into voluntary administration. FTI Consulting has been appointed administrator. McCain sold the Sara Lee to a New Zealand private equity company, South Island Office, in August 2021 for $95 million. It was the red meat industry's turn this week to raise its concerns over the free trade agreement negotiations with the EU. The IWSC did so in February regarding the number of geographical indications the EU was demanding, and the wine industry followed soon after with similar concerns. For the Australian Meat Industry Council, the issue is around meaningful access. As it stands, existing trade conditions are extremely limiting for the sector, with restrictive quotas and high tariffs. The AMIC CEO, Patrick Hutchinson, said the council's concern was that a subpar deal would deliver a regulatory death by 1,000 cuts situation, with new restrictions and barriers to trade. Australia more than stood up and represented at last week's International Wine and Spirit competition. Spirits did well. 4 Pillars was named Gin Producer of the Year for the 3rd time, the first distillery to ever do so. Top Shelf International's vodka label Grain Shaker won Vodka Producer of the Year, only the 2nd Australian vodka to do so. And Australia's wine performance was also impressive. Western Australia's Margaret River was the most awarded wine region in the whole competition. You can read about the individual winners on the website. But it was West Australian winery Cherubino that stormed home. 2 trophies, White Wine Producer of the Year and the 2023 Outstanding Wine Producer, and 16 medals. And yesterday marked 100 years of Vegemite. I don't know, I think there's something quite comforting in that. For all these stories and more, head to the website foodanddrinkbusiness.com.au. Thanks to GS1 Australia. And with that, I'm Kim Berry, over and out.